What's the dumbest thing you've seen someone do at a store? A guy stopped mid-cycle in the revolving door to pick up something he dropped on the floor and got whacked hard in the rear when another customer entered. Furniture store I worked at. Smaller items, anything smaller than a recliner, could be arranged to be shipped to the store for pickup, saving the customer the delivery fee. But the customer just has to bring a proper vehicle to pick it up. So a couple comes in saying they have an order to pick up. I ask if they have the receipt. We give a physical paper one and an email one. And they say yes, but don't get anything from a pocket. After about 10 seconds of silence I say, "Can I have it?" To which they reply, "I don't see how that's relevant. Let me talk to the manager." Manager was right there since I was fairly new. And eventually got the receipt from them. They paid their remaining balance. And I got the item for them, a twin-sized bunk bed. These people had a tiny car, Civic or something. And it was packed up like they were going on a month-long road trip. And they complained about us not telling them the box would be that big. Packaging dimensions are listed online. They had to leave it with us. They never came back for their fully paid for bed. We sent it back to the warehouse and sold it again. Edit. Forgot the best part. They left a 1-star review of the store. And acted like we were the villains for not giving them, who could have been randos off the street, until they gave us the receipt. Their product, and for not helping them load it into their car. The review was taken down. There are these lightsaber toys that if you say something and swing the saber it would repeat the thing you say. I was shopping with mom and said, "Hey mom, watch this." I said pee-pee into the saber and started swinging it like crazy. So someone in the other section hearing this dumbass swinging a lightsaber, but the noise is replaced with the dumbass saying pee-pee. And said dumbass is swinging it like crazy. I was buying alcohol with a fake id in high school for a friend and a buddy of his who I didn't really know. We were all at the checkout in the liquor store and his dumb friend decided to try to steal a lighter from the counter while the clerk was ringing us up. The guy working the register was basically looking right at us, so he obviously saw and told the guy to put the lighter back. Instead of just putting it back, this kid decided to play dumb and act like he didn't take anything. The guy working the register yelled to the security guard who blocked the door and told the kid to turn his pockets inside out. Shooters that I didn't even realize he had pocketed while we were in the store. I was sweating bullets because I thought they were going to call the cops and I was going to get busted when they figured out I wasn't 21. Luckily the guy working the register was cool about it and just told us to get out of the store. I never understood why the kid didn't just put the lighter back, considering how much other he had stolen that would have gone unnoticed. I always went into the store alone when using my fake after that. Just joined the party after years of lurking around. Not a store but restaurant. I had a gentleman specifically request pecans on the side of his salad. When I arrived with his request, he was very upset that they weren't far away enough. He was allergic. Didn't want them in the first place. My girlfriend works at a reptile store. There are signs plastered on every surface that clearly say, "Do not open any cages, ask a representative if you want to see an animal." Well, these two girls strolled in and just decided they were going to open up the tank of a Burmese python, which is a massive snake that if hungry would probably not hesitate to attempt to feast on a hand. Luckily a couple employees saw and flipped out on them. To this day I do not know what made those girls think they had any business opening and reaching into a giant snake's tank. A couple of months ago I was getting out of a supermarket and a woman with a baby in a stroller approached me. She asked me to buy her 4 big bottles of water. My dumbass thought she's saying buy me 4 jars of tomato paste. So I went back in and bought 4 jars of tomato paste, and when I came back the lady was dying out of laughter. I still am ashamed of what I did. This question reminds me of the show Superstore and the way they do scene transitions, as they have little scenes of the customers doing weird or stupid things. It's one of my favorite parts of the show because they are hilarious, and I bet people at Walmart have done that before. Here is a mashup of a lot of them. Pay for 2 pints of MD 2020 Orange Jubilee. All ready to drunk to stand. Take the change. Pass out. Hit chin on countertop 3 stitches. Can't stand up. Ambulance comes. Himself. Went to the hospital. Bowel .245.08 is legally drunk. Spent 3 days in hospital suffering withdrawal. Proud to say that I'm now 17 months sober. Edit. Point 245. Texas stores are weird. At night, some of them will lock the door on the right side. But it's something you wise up to after living here for a while. I was in a racetrack gas station convenience store at about 3 a.m. I was buying gas and I went inside to pay first. A guy comes in, looks around, opens the cooler and grabs a 12-pack of Bud Light. Seriously, man? And runs for the door. I'm guessing he wasn't from Texas. Because he hit that right-hand door going full tilt boogie and I swear he bounced. Broke his nose, knocked himself out and laid there groaning when the deputies showed up to take his to jail. They weren't real happy with dealing with such a dipshit and they just kind of slid his out to the patrol car by his jacket collar. Had to hurt. There was this weird guy in a ski mask who forgot to buy some stuff. Okay, so I was at work in an ice cream shop. A lady comes in and orders a vanilla milkshake. She gets this nasty look on her face when I add the milk, but shrugs it off when I ask her about it. So I'm ringing her out. And she pays. And then goes right to my owner and complains about the service. I'd like to let you know that the boy who just served me, I'm 19, was very rude to me. What did he do, ma'am? He made my milkshake with milk in it and I'm lactose intolerant. I demand a refund and for him to be fired. I'm just sitting here dumbfounded how anyone could be so stupid. Ice cream, by its very nature, has milk. It was me. I filled in a job application form. I watched a toddler drink nail polish. His mom didn't do anything besides take the bottle and do the weird violent angry whisper thing. While standing in the store, someone asked an employee if the store was open. The woman who was arguing with me, I was working in the produce department of a grocery store, about how she didn't like how one side of the watermelon was flatter, paler, and a little dirty. I said, "What do you mean? When they are on the ground?" She thought watermelons grew on trees. The dumbest thing anyone's ever done in a store is when you want something and your mom says no. So you have to do the walk of shame back to the shelf to put it back. Fighting over paper toilet. That thing was stupid as. I was at a Walgreens near my workplace. And I'm glad I got into the line at the end of this particular event. Apparently one particular shopper didn't understand the concept of carts. Or lines. She went down one aisle. Picked up all the products she was able to carry. Took them to the register and had the clerk start ringing them up. But she wasn't done shopping. She went down to the next aisle and picked up another armload of products to buy. And brought them up to the clerk for another set of ring-ups. Lather. Rinse. Repeat for, I counted, at least 5 different rounds. Holding up the entire line while she did her shopping in phases. And she went full on Karen if anybody tried to bypass her. Including me with my 2 products. I was late back to work from my lunch break that day. I saw a guy get a can of vegetables free because they did not match the sale price. They were less than the sale price. I had to explain to a customer that when their laptop was plugged in it would charge. And when it was not plugged in it would lose charge. Try to walk out with games those anti-theft containers. Store isn't quite right. But I used to work at a hotel that was dog-friendly. One night someone came to the lobby, grabbed a newspaper, and then grabbed a cookie from the ceramic jar labeled "Woof" directly above the dog bowl. He bit into it before I could stop him, and his embarrassment quickly switched to rage when he realized his mistake and that I had seen it. He, without exaggeration, screamed full volume for a minimum of 15 minutes about how awful it is on our part to have dog treats that look like cookies. They were the most generic dog treat you can imagine. I've never seen a human cookie look like one. In a jar without a label, the jar said "Woof." I think the dumb part wasn't even the mistake of eating it, but the attempt to blame us for his own stupidity. I mean, holy. Licking ice cream and walking away has to be up there. Doesn't it? Unquestionably so if they film it as well. It was me. I was like 4 or something at Walmart with my mom. And the hose they used to rinse off the produce was out. I decided to try and pick it up and operate it. But the force of the water was too powerful for a small kid like me. so it went all over. And I got drenched and traumatized. I was once at an Adidas store waiting in line. When I reached at the counter, I was dealing with this very kind lady. I paid for my stuff and she was like literally the nicest human ever. I move and I see this Chinese guy screaming at her from the side asking for a refund for something, and I could tell that it was some rusty shoes that were torn off. And he kept on screaming and screaming for something so stupid, and the lady, you can tell how nervous and scared she was. I work at a grocery store. And these times people are concerned about germs and bacteria and want to keep their hands clean. Which is understandable. I keep a bottle of hand sanitizer in my bag. So, I will get jobs at my store like getting carts, cleaning the meat department and put bags up, and so on. This time I was cleaning the carts and watching the entranceway. We have 2 doors. But since this COVID-19 happens, we have one for an entrance and an exit. I was cleaning the carts using a spray that had chloride in it. Once in a while, I will have customers who would ask if they can have their hands be spray. Which I tell them no. And what is in the bottle? Some will be okay with it or get annoyed that they have to wash their hands in the restroom. But, oh my gosh, I would get some dumb people. I had a person who was coming in for a cart and saw that the can was sitting next to me and asked if he can spray his hands. Of course, I tell no. And we cannot spray this on customers. And it is toxic. He looks me. Then the bottle and grab it and spray his bare hands and walk to the store. I stood there in disbelief. Sorry. This long. This is my first Reddit post and please excuse the grammar. My sister and her friends went to a Jack in the Box to hang out and whatnot. One of them ordered an Oreo cookie shake without the whipped cream on top. But can I still get the cherry? Her friend asked nicely. But you said you didn't want whipped cream, the employee replied, raising a brow. Yes, ma'am. Sir, she starts annoyed. Where am I supposed to put the cherry if there's no whipped cream? Both are puzzled for different reasons. Well, he suggested. Shocked he had to say it all. Could you put it on top of the shake? Rolling on the floor, laughing face with tears of joy. Edit. He. She. Stick an actual pack of gum from a shelf in their mouth and pretend it was their own. Lick things after testing positive for a pandemic. Lol IDK, if this is the dumbest, but I was at the store with my BF and when we were exiting, this old, bigger lady with a huge stopped right in front of us. When she stopped, apparently BF wasn't looking and hit the cart right into her butt. She was super mad and was like, well, go ahead then, and then we just walked past. Lol. He said he was sorry and it was clearly an accident, but she was a huge about it anyway. The are you doing stopping dead in the middle of the exit doors in a busy grocery store anyway? I worked at Albertsons in Boise, Idaho quite a few years ago. We had a man named Harley Brown come into the store with a rifle. We thought that he was going to rob us. But instead, he went to customer service with it and asked if he could pawn it so that he could get beer. Yes. I realized that Reddit is supposed to be anonymous. But Harley Brown is a matter of public record as he tried to run for POTUS a couple of times in the past. The dude is a straight-up cook. He says that God told him personally that it was his destiny to be POTUS. No joke. At an old job, some ditz filled out an application. On the street address line, she wrote her email. She didn't get what her mistake was even after we pointed it out in interview. Worked at a pet store and watched a guy try and shove a huge aquarium filter in his hoodie. Then he had the balls to approach the counter with this protruding abnormally from his belly and tried to buy something. I laughed and told him to return it or I'd call the cops. He looked shook up, waddled back to the aisle and put it on the shelf. Told him on the way out to never return. Another one from the pet store was back when Finding Nemo came out. A guy called in about getting a clownfish. So we explained the requirements of setting up a salt water tank. The guy says, "Aw, that's way too much work, can't I just paint a goldfish?" We all had a good laugh about that one. A couple of weeks ago at the grocery store, elderly woman dressed in a clear disposable raincoat with rubber gloves and a surgical face mask. I'm waiting in the checkout line. She's walking into each check lane and getting really close to everyone. A few lanes down, she pulls her mask down and puts her gloved hands to her now bare face so she can yell something to her husband. As someone who worked in retail, People who get things, put it in their cart, walk around the store, then realize they don't want it and plop it where they currently are. Extra hate if it is a cold, hot item. About a month ago I was waiting in line at the grocery store. One lady in front of me, and one guy sort of off to the side. It looked like he might have been waiting, but I wasn't sure, and he was having a very loud conversation on his phone, so I didn't really want to ask. All he had with his was a box of ice cream drumsticks, and he seemed to be rolling on speed or something. This was his side of the conversation as I can recall. Talkin' 'bout a meat swing. Got the fucking drumsticks. Fucking meat swing. FUCCCCKKKINDRUNKSTICKS. The lady ahead of me is shaking her head. So I do that smile and eye roll thing people do when internally laughing together in public. She motions for me to go ahead of her. So I smile, thank her, and start putting my stuff on the conveyor. Dude pipes up. Been waiting like. Gonna get that MEEAAAATSWIIINNNNGGG. Cutters don't know drumsticks with that meat swing. I don't mind confrontation. So I just turned to him and said, "Yo man. You're on your phone. Not near the line." And yelling like an asshole. Then just shrugged at him. He quiets down. Actually says sorry. Then says into the phone. Just talking about that MEEAAAATSWIIIINNNNG. Then management threw him out. And the lady who had let me go in front of her and I just about pissed ourselves laughing. Meat swing indeed. I was working the customer service desk at a grocery store a few years ago. We sold Keurig coffee makers. Some dude tried to steal one, box and all, by putting it under his hoodie and walking out the door. When confronted by management for his obviously box-shaped torso, he decided to sprint for the door. The door he chose only opens automatically from one direction. Not the one he was going either. So he slams face first into the door. Broke a pane of glass and knocked himself the out. Minutes. This actually happened today. I'm a food and drink vendor, so I go to different stores every day to see if they need anything that we sell. There's a lot of dumb stuff that happens, but this one is still fresh. So I'm in an aisle at one of these stores and this old man wearing a mask, which is good, calls out to me and asks me if I work at said store. This happens a lot and it's not a big deal. I tell him, sorry no. I'm a vendor. He laughs and apologizes. I walk away and proceed 3 aisles down. Same guy comes up to me and asks me again. I tell him that I'm the same guy he just asked. He laughs and apologizes profusely. He then says that he's looking for coffee filters and can't find it. Having an idea of where it is, I walk him to the aisle where the coffee is and point to where the filters are on the shelf. Nothing really dumb going on at this point. Just a little funny. He then starts to firmly pat me on both shoulders continuously while thanking me. This guy has a mask on but just reached out and rubbed his hands all over me. This was me and I don't think I've seen anything more dumb. I was 4 and we went to the pet store. I wanted a frog and a fish. My dad said no. When he wasn't looking, I pocketed a goldfish and a frog. When we got to the car, I showed my dad. He made me return them. The frog made it. The fish did not.